Good evening, guys. This is Praveen from Rocker Scrum. I welcome you all participants who have joined to this support training. Today we will be presenting the different features that Rockers has delivered in 10.7. During this training, we will also show you what are the troubleshooting steps and during this recording. Okay, so the presentation will be provided by the Pratik Sahu.
Hello everyone, I am Pratik Sahu. On the behalf of Rocker.Scrum, will be demonstrating the features developed in TSPS 10.7, that is Nephrite. So let's get started. The agenda for today will be the overview of the feature, functionality of the features, the debugging steps, the troubleshooting we encountered while development, known problems and limitations, performance impact, and risk steps. So the overview. First, the agent upgrade. In this feature, the agent will be upgraded from 10.0 later versions to 10.7 versions. Second is multiple instances install and uninstall. In this feature, install and uninstall can be triggered to a PA which is connected through multiple ports. Whereas in 10.5, we had to stop the agents, trigger the deploy and then start the agents. Whereas in 10.7 we have taken the responsibility to stop and start the agents after deploy and install. Next is the force install KM. In this feature, the same version of KM will be reinstalled on the 10.7 patrol agent. If you feel the KM is corrupted, you can reinstall the particular KM. The next is agent-wise report. In this feature, a CSV file will be generated listing all the patrol agents with the respective solutions either installed by KM push or manually. The next is agent filters. In this feature, an agent will be filtered on the manage devices page based upon the monitoring solution name or monitoring solution version, which are either deployed through KM push or manually. Next is the BMC based support. In this feature, the BMC software products installation directory while creating the deployable packages is not mandated now. This will be taken care by the CR. The CR will find the appropriate path and deploy and install at that location. So let's go through the user interface walkthrough. First is the create package of patrol agent 10.7 because we want to create a patrol agent package before the upgrade. So let's go to the TSPS server. So I have already logged in. So I will navigate to administration and the repository. I have already imported a 10.7 repository here and I have created some of the default packages. When I click on the create deployable package and select the respective OS and the platform, we can select the patrol agent KM, that is 10.7, and say next. Now as I said, the BMC software products installation directory is now not a mandate which can be kept as in or which can be emptied. For time being I am keeping it empty and saying next. So it will be replaced with the BMC base variable. The CI framework will look into this variable and will replace it with the correct installation directory of the patrol agent. Saying next. Now if you see the patrol default account properties, this property including cell configurations, integration services, patrol agent port, CMI tags, RT servers and security level variables. These property variables will be ignored while the agent upgrade. So we can keep any password, any default login name and say next, and we can proceed with the basic security. As I have said, this won't be taken into consideration while upgrade agent port. Same way of integration services variable, and for the cell configurations as well, and RT servers, and we can go ahead and save the package. These fields are ignored because these fields can be taken care later after the agent has been upgraded, and we don't want to change the configurations while the upgrade. We can go ahead and save the petrol agent package with the name, relevant package name, and go ahead and save it.
No, it is failed because the same name is already present.
Yes, I
Correct.
understand. So the package is already created and it is listed in the deployable packages. Now we can navigate to configuration and manage devices, and we can select a 10.0 petrol agent, which is here, and we click on the ellipsis, say deploy and install packages, and if you can see here, all the petrol agent packages will be marked by a star, and the variables which I have said will be ignored will be listed, shown here. Now we can select that we have created the petrol agent and say deploy and install. So it is successfully triggered. It takes some time to get upgraded. By the time I can show you the agent which is already been upgraded. This is the 019414. So this was upgraded from 10.0 to 10.7. So it can be verified from the deployment and summary page and from the petrol agent details. Yeah. So petrol agent for Windows, it was successfully installed and completed. So any doubt around agent upgrade? Yeah, the last. We can navigate to view and deployment summary, and I have triggered a petrol agent 107, and we can check on this.
Job that we have triggered can be shown as in progress.
Yeah, the job I have initially triggered is in progress state. So it will be completed and the finish time will be populated as in. Let's move back to slides. No. So
Correct.
Yes.
That's what we done. Means we have created a 10.7 agent package and we have pushed to the 10.0 agent. Yeah, if you look at
yeah,
just the current version is 10.0.
10.0.
10.0.
And
He has shown the previous history. Once the job is completed, we can end of the session. We can go to the summary and we can check it.
Yeah. After it is upgraded, the version will be changed to 10.7, like in this agent. It has been changed.
Okay.
We'll go to the previous slides. The create package has been called. Now the validations for petrol agents, the following validations are performed. The petrol agent version must be 10.0 later. The integration service version must be 10.5 or later. The packages must match the operating system of the target petrol agent. Integration and the petrol agent host must have the required space. In the integration servers, you must have at least free space as of the deployable package. And in the petrol agent, you must have at least 4 times the free space as the size of the deployable package. And finally, the petrol components such as petrol classic console, petrol central operator, WP config must be closed before the deployment has been triggered. So the validations we have gone through the last slide, we can be shown in the UI. So if you are trying to deploy and install a 10.7 petrol agent with the 10.7 Windows petrol agent, so it will raise a message like this and saying deployment of petrol agent with the version that is same or lower than the installed petrol agent is not allowed. Means you cannot downgrade or upgrade with the same version petrol agent.
Override is not allowed.
Yeah.
So if customer
Yeah.
has 10.0 right now and he upgraded to 10.7,
Yes.
so he is able to successfully perform the upgradation.
Yes.
I mean, and he cannot degrade it to 10.
No, he can't degrade.
Yeah.
Once
Is there a
upgraded,
way I can upgrade my pathogen, multiple pathogen one shot?
yes. You mean
Yeah.
to say multiple instance or more than one
Yeah,
agent?
Yes, more than one agent I want to upgrade.
Yeah. We can select on manage device page. You can select multiple agents and deploy it. It's the same.
That option was not there.
No. Previously, agent upgrade was the feature of 10.7, but the KM deployment is also allowed on multiple agents. It's only the selection need to be done for multiple. So you can go to the screen.
Yeah.
Table header action menu, you can
Yeah. Now you can see like this. Shift and select.
If you select multiple agents like this, you can say deploy and install,
Yeah. You can go ahead that.
and select the package and deploy and install.
Yes. It's fine. It's quite good.
Yeah.
So I had one case and customer upgraded the agent and he found the issue, so he had to degrade that agent.
Okay.
So customer won't be able to degrade it. So
Yeah, correct. It's not the support. The thing is, the backup which is done need to be done reverted manually. Yes. Whereas if during upgrade there is any issue itself, this functionality has a feature that it will roll back to the older version. And because of some reasons installation is corrupted, 10.7 upgrade was corrupted, it will be reverted to the older versions. That has been taken care. But once you have successfully properly upgraded the agent and some KM is having issue, that will not be automatically downgraded. It has to be done. Yeah. The same case as of today.
Hey, I have one question. If you want to upgrade 100 agents at a time, so how do we select? Can we select all the 100 at a time?
Yeah. Yes. We just shown that you can press the control button and select all agents, or you can create a filter and select all.
Right.
We'll
So using the control, I mean, is there any kind of limitation for it?
Based on UI action, we have tested till the 500. And
From UI, we have selected, I mean, we have tested with 500.
500 and the PSR figures we can share afterwards.
Okay.
How much we can select it and trigger at a time. But I think there is no issue with that. 100 agents is obviously possible.
Right. It is good if you have something like if you want to upgrade for all the Linux, right? Some kind of thing where I can do
Yeah.
one
It is
checkbox
there.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
In a session we have that scenario. We can configure the particular filter and go ahead with that upgrade. We'll show you.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Okay, let's get ahead. So second, you upgrade validation, UI validation is agent operating system and package operating system must match. So in this scenario, I have selected a Linux Patrol agent and a Windows Patrol agent. So and I have selected a package saying Patrol agent 107 of Windows. So if I select deploy and install, it has blocked the Linux Patrol agent saying agent operating system and package operating system are incompatible, and the continue button is enabled for the Windows operating system. Second validation would be the repository ones. If you have an older version of repository being imported and if you try to deploy and install or upgrade, it says the repository contains an earlier versions of BMC installation utility. The minimum supported version is 10.7. Now validations for the Patrol agent rollback. So if at any point the upgrade fails during the process, the installer automatically rolls back the Patrol agent to a successful running state. So the Patrol agent will be rolled back if the following conditions are met. Required space is not there in the Windows Patrol home/temp directory or in the Unix/temp directory. The CI version is not 10.7. If invalid root privileges are used for Patrol agent packages while creating deployable package. While creating deployable packages for Unix, root credentials are not mandatory. So there is a chance if we miss that root password field. So in this scenario, we will block while deploy and install saying authentication details are not providing while creating the package, edit the package and retry the deployment. The final point would be the Patrol components such as Patrol Classic Console, petrol center operator and WP config are not closed. In these scenarios, the petrol will be rolled back to current successful version.
Okay, when the petrol agent will be rolled back to the successful or last known state, will it be in the running state or user has to manually start the petrol agent?
It will be in a running state.
Okay, and it will get connected. I mean,
Yeah,
whatever the
correct.
agent state was earlier,
Correct.
that will remain there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. With rollback, the all pconfig variable will be restored as it is.
Okay.
The same thing works for multiple instances. If any host has multiple agent running on different port, that all will be restored and will be up.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so those validations which we have seen in the previous slide is shown on the petrol agent details page, as in when there is a space limitation, upgrade process, it says the upgrade process failed, there is not enough disk space at this location, this was free and required was this MB. So this format in the logs will be shown in this format.
The same error could be found in a two-side CMA KM push logs.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say.
The next scenario in which the petrol CLI has been changed, so it fails, saying the petrol CLI has size mismatch between the calculated value and this value specified in catalog. So rollback success, so it rolled back to 10.0 and the same logs can be triggered, logs message can be seen in the logs in this format. It can be found in the two-side CMA KM push logs. Next scenario would be the process CLI is in use. So the upgrade process failed and it rolled back to previous successful running version. And the corresponding log message format would be this found in two-side CMA KM push log. Now we have covered this deploy and install package, creating the package, selecting the package and saying deploy and install. So it can be verified from deploy and install summary page. Next is agent filter. So let's get back to the ASPS server. Next feature would be the agent filters. So if I go to the configuration manage device and select on the Eclipse's manage device and say create agent filter, two new options has been introduced, monitoring solution name and monitoring solution version. So going first with the monitoring solution name, the list of solutions are displayed in accordance with the repo being imported. And the respective comparison operations are equals, not equals. So in this petrol agent 019411, I already deployed and installed log management. So if I say monitoring solution equals log management and say apply, this petrol agent will be listed. And if I say not equals, this petrol agent won't be listed, 019414. The second option is monitoring solution version. It lists all the monitoring solutions version with the version. So I have deployed and installed on 019414 log management 2.7.30. So if I say agent filter monitoring solution version equals log management this version, so it will be shown. If I select any other version of log management, it won't be listed. The comparisons operations would be equals, not equals, smaller than, greater than. If I select greater than, then it will be listed according to the version, because 2.7.30 is greater than 2.6.00.
So someone has asked this question that is there any way to check? So you can just put that. Okay, as we can see, we have filtered all Windows boxes, and from accordion we can select all agents and trigger the deploy on them. So basically,
Thank
this
you.
version filter will be useful when the customer wanted to apply any patch, specific patch on the multiple agents. So that will be helpful here.
The next feature would be export solutions by agent. So when I click on manage devices ellipsis, we see a new menu is export solutions by agent. When I click on it, a new CSV file has been generated. So it lists all the petrol agents with the respective solutions. The format would be infrastructure management server, IS, agent name, agent port, agent version, the solution being installed, and the solution version. And to note here, the list of monitoring solutions is retrieved only for petrol agent 10.0 liter.
Show option again.
Yeah, sure.
To export,
Click on manage device.
just wait. Export solution.
Next.
This is the agent.
This is going to be shown, like it's going to be not dependent on any specific operating system. Like once we select this export, all the operating system, the agents which are present, it's going to be showing the details of it.
Correct. Okay. All the agents which are 10.0 and later, which are connected to CME, we will list all solutions from there. Hey Neil. Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
And the solutions being listed here is irrespective of whether the solution is deployed through KM push or manually. If no solutions are found for the petrol agent, then it says no petrol solutions found and solution version would be not applicable.
So if you notice here, the filter we are applying for 01941, and you can find the log management with the version that we checked for.
Yes. So this is a scenario where the TSPS has just restarted and you are trying to pull out the report. So the agent cache is still in the initialization process. So you have to wait for some minute, and after that the CSV can be generated.
That's will be sometimes only.
Next is the force install KM. So if you have noticed in the previous demo, I have already installed log management 2.7.30 on this petrol agent. So if I go ahead and say deploy and install, okay, it has locked down. So if I select this petrol agent and say deploy and install the same petrol solution, it will give you a force override deployment warning saying petrol agent contains the same version of monitoring solution. Select the checkbox to override the existing installation. So you have to select the checkbox and continue it. The same KM will be reinstalled.
This is basically for the if some KM installation is corrupted because of some reason. So we can just override. Previously, you need to uninstall and install again.
So that will not impact anything. So it will from the force installation.
That it will just override the. Yeah.
Can I ask a further question on that?
Yes.
In terms of the OSKMs, Windows and Unix, Linux, those have the policies now that have subsets of the full KM. So there's multiple KMLs. How are we handling if a customer deployed a subset of the OS? Do we always deploy the full OSKM and then we're just using the KMLs to load that, or how do we keep from mixing libraries and PSL?
Okay. So the check has been maintained on a subcomponent levels. If customer has selected partial components, like in case of Windows, there are a couple of 5 to 6 subcomponents. If he has installed previously only 3 components, we will be checking against the 3 only. Okay. So we'll keep a track of the sub solutions which are installed during that.
So if the customer was only deploying, he thought, I mean, he might not know, but if he's only deploying in another subset of those 3, we're going to prevent that from
No. If he
overriding?
has installing rest of the subcomponents, it will not be the case of force. Will allow it to be a normal deployment.
I guess I'm still not quite following that.
Okay. So your question was like this. Let me rephrase it. Yes. Let's say suppose customer has created some components. Back. Totally.
This.
Yeah. Windows Server, and out of these components, customer has gone ahead and selected only few components, right?
Okay.
Yep. And he deployed this package, and it things gone correct and deploys fine. Now in next go, customer go ahead create another package where the first 4 components are not there, but remaining 4 are there, right? And when he goes for this installation, what will happen? That was your question, correct?
Oh no, I'm thinking. Let's say he had 10.5 before it, and now he's just deploying, and he did 4. Let's say 4 of those ones you're picking now. Then now he's going to deploy from the 10.7 repository and new, and then he just selects 2 of those, but 2 of those still would have 10.5. Do you update behind the scenes everything to 10.7, or because you can't leave mixed stuff, because I know there are shared libraries within the OS process.
We will be updating it. More shared library, as far as the shared library which are covered, they will be updated with this 10.7. I think in that case, customer has to take care that he must upgrade the previous 4 with this.
Okay, but we do catch that, and we tell them that if he's only updating 2 of the 4, and then we don't let that go through, correct? We tell them that they've got to update all 4.
Yes.
Morgan, I think what they're saying is it gets automatically updated based on the package. So it's going to update whatever's out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so in reality, we're updating the entire OSKM or OS package, and then that would update all the sub pieces underneath. Okay.
At least all shared components.
But I'd like to ask a question that you just posed. So the first package did the top 4, and the second package does the bottom 4, and they apply it to the same agent. What happens?
It will be a normal deployment, because there is no override. If let's take example, there is some package like fifth which is common to both. In that case, we will show that solutions has something that already installed, similar version. But if this is totally different subsets, then we will go it as a normal deployment, because there is no overlap.
Okay, so if there's overlap, it won't do anything, but if there's no overlap, then it will do something?
If there is an overlap, we will show the fourth screen that do customer want to override the existing, and if there is no overlap, in that case we will go ahead and deploy.
Okay. And just one other question in terms of, you don't see it here, but for configuration of a monitoring policy, suppose they deploy without any sort of configuration out there. Let's take Active Directory for a moment, as opposed to the Windows OS.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to the next screen for configuration.
ये चिल्ला मत रे, बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, कॉल फोन पे बात करना है.
He is asking for the configuration.
Okay.
Under policies, he will
Okay.
select the solution.
Hey, can you just repeat the question, Hassan? Chef?
I'm sorry.
Can you please repeat the question, what you said?
So the question is, I mean, is there any configuration that's done for the Active Directory, Windows Active Directory, beyond just selecting it? So is there a screen that's going to allow me to configure it?
No, I think so. Because this is a normal CAM deployment, the configuration will be done through the policy.
Okay, fine, fair enough.
Yep. That's good.
I have a question about the upgrade. One of the reasons that we're doing this is to, if the CAM becomes corrupted, correct, and then so we can push out, we can fix it by pushing out the files again. But you know, if it's corrupted and there's some processes running, let's say using DLLs on Windows, I mean, obviously if you push down new binaries, it's gonna, and TLLs, that's gonna fail. So I assume in that case you'd have to disable the policy, go out there manually and kill everything, and then run this, and then re-enable. Is that the correct process in that case?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to point that out.
Yep.
Okay.
So I thought during a deployment we actually stopped the agent to do the install.
You mean to say we'll stop the agent during the CAM push?
During installation, once the files were being installed, I thought we stopped the agent.
No, because the things are triggered by the agent during the deployment. Whenever we send trigger the CAM deployment, the files will be downloaded by the agent, and then it triggers the CI installation. So he is a triggering point. So we could not stop it, but once the petrol agent upgrade starts or CAM push start, the common installer itself stop the petrol agent, and at the end of installation, it will start agent again.
Right. So that goes to Brent's question. That goes to Brent's question is, you know, files were there. There's possibility of, you know, stray processes still running, but when just but you know, if the agent's controlling those processes, once it goes down, it should kill off those DLLs and stuff. Is kind of what I was getting at.
Yes.
It depends on how the CAM's written. I have one that is true. Not going to do that. Yeah. I mean, it should. I mean, if they're written right, but we have
if you have that problem. If you have that problem, then you have other issues where you shut down the agent, it just continues to run for days, even though the agent's down. So, yeah,
exactly.
No, I got it. So those KMs will have to address that issue.
Yeah,
because you won't be able to upgrade. You'll fail on the upgrades. You're absolutely right.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got one of those. The WCAM does that. Spawns processes.
So you can go ahead and write yourself a defect.
Yeah, I did. I'm looking at this and mine's not going to work.
But we should. So if there are KMs that are going to have some known issues, we should make sure that we somehow notify the customer, and two, make sure we get that fixed.
So next is the multiple instances install and uninstall. So let's get back to the TSPS server. So I have an agent which is connected through multiple ports. Let me query and dot. So this is the agent which is connected through multiple ports 3181, 3182 and 3183. So when I say select any petrol agent and say deploy and install, and I have already created a package iSeries and say deploy and install, it will say a message override deployment warning saying the package will be deployed on all the petrol agents on this host 3182, 383. Oops. I have to select the checkbox and select continue.
Okay.
So the process will be started on all the petrol agents. So prior to 10.7, so if there are multiple instances of petrol agent connected, we have to stop other instances and deploy and install and then restart the petrol agent. Whereas in this we have taken the responsibility to restart the petrol agents after deploy and install or uninstall.
So on that screen, did it say that it was stopping all the agents? I didn't get a chance to read the screen.
Yeah.
Because it's not that it's really installing on Windows. It's not that it's installing on all the agents. They all have a common directory structure, and so I just want to make sure that it stated that we're shutting down all those agents at once.
No, we did not get a comment, Brian.
So can you act like you're deploying again? And does it say that it's stopping all those agents? It says it's going to install on all of them. Does it actually say it's stopping? I didn't get a chance to read the screen. So if you went through the deployment again,
okay,
just like I said.
Just go back to it. Okay. So basically, we did not mention that we'll stop all agents. Just select any package and deploy it. Next. Yes.
I see.
Yes. Install. Yeah. Sure. This package.
Please review. This package will be installed on all instances.
Yes. So when we deploy through the KM push on any instance, it by default will be restarted. So
okay.
We haven't specifically mentioned that this all instance will be restarted. Will mean that.
That makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, fine.
So it will be restarted. All the agents has been stopped now. The same goes for uninstall. If I select any of the patrol agents, or let it wait to complete.
I think we can go ahead and come back to see the results.
Yes. We can trigger uninstall after.
Yeah, we can just show the install. That's
yeah.
fine. I think the
flow
flow is similar.
Uninstall. So, it says the monitoring solutions will be uninstalled from all the instances of patrol agent 3182, 3183. And if I click on this,
cancel.
The uninstall window will be shown and the respective KM will be shown, and we can uninstall the respective KMs installed in it. Now the functional insights. The monitoring solution name and the monitoring solution version property of agent filters is only applicable to patrol agent version 10.0 later. The same goes for the export solutions by agent. The list of monitoring solutions is retrieved only for patrol agents 10.0 later. If you have any patrol agents prior to 10.0, it won't be listed. The force option will be available for patrol agents version 10.7. For 10.0 versions, this facility is not there. You cannot reinstall the same version KM again or the lower version KM. Upgrade to patrol agent. Agent package ignores the values of this following variables. First, cell configurations, integrations, services, patrol agent default account properties, patrol agent ports, CMA tags, RD servers, and security level variables. The final point is if a package contains any version or newer version of KM and an older version of patrol agent, deployment won't be allowed, since it's a downgrade of patrol agent.
Just to mention here, if customer want to change any configuration after doing the upgrade, like cell configuration or IS service, he can do it using the policy.
Yes.
After upgrade.
Next would be the BMC based feature. So while creating the deployable package, the installation can be specified as proceed with the default directory what is mentioned, enter a different directory for installation, or leave the field empty if you don't know where the patrol agent is being installed. This gives an added advantage in a use scenario where there are hundreds of patrol agents installed in a different directory. The same package can be used to deploy and install, irrespective of the directory where it is actually being installed. Next we will go through the validation. If you are trying to deploy and install with the earlier versions of repository, first we need to import the repo of 10.7 or import the BMC installation utility as a signal solution, then go ahead and create the packages and deploy and install. The help links are attached for reference.
So I had a question. I'm sorry, I couldn't get off mute. So prior you said you don't have to define the path for installation, correct?
Yes.
And I get that for upgrade, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
My question is so I don't really create a package knowing that it's going to be an upgrade. It's just an install package. So if I go to deploy that to a system for an upgrade, I get that it's going to, go ahead and just use whatever directory structure it has. But what if I accidentally push that package as a package I want to do an install and I haven't defined that? Does it just stop and say, hey, you can't deploy this because it doesn't have that? What happens there?
Brian, when you deploy a new KM package on a petrol agent via KM push, the CI will take care that the petrol agent home will be retrieved from the petrol agent.
But if I don't have what I'm saying is when I create these packages, I don't create them knowing that it's an upgrade. So that's where I was confused. It could be an install, fresh install, right? Or so the agent's required.
Okay, you mean to say you will create a package for the agent and the manual installation that time this will be.
I get it. So if there's already an agent there, it's not really an upgrade thing. It's just if there's an agent there, it uses BMC base and does the installation. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay, I get it. Okay, I misunderstood at the beginning. Thank you.
I have a question. Like in case of the fresh installation, like when we go for what you're saying, like let's say if we have petrol agent like on multiple servers, we have some petrol agents on C drive or on a different drive. So what you're saying, like when we go for this option, irrespective of like which drive or which location it is installed, is going to pick up that location.
Yes.
So how are we, like let's say if we have a kind of fresh installation, so how it's going to pick up like which drive is
fresh installation of KMs?
The fresh installation of petrol agent, let's say.
We can't do a fresh install. The petrol agent has to be there. We can't deploy it fresh. So that's where my question kind of came in, and I was a little confused.
Fresh install.
So there's already an agent there if I'm deploying a KM.
Yes.
Fresh install cannot be done if the agent wasn't there, and I can't deploy an agent fresh. We don't support that. It has to there has to be an agent version already there, and it has to be 10 or higher.
Yeah, that's right. Brian's correct.
Yeah, so that I was going down the same thing of wait a minute, what happens if I leave it blank and I'm trying to do a fresh install? Well, we can't do a fresh install.
Correct. Thanks.
But the question on where do we get that information is good, because I have a customer. I know that we've done a lot of testing of having multiple agents running on a box. I have a customer that does their installs a little differently, and it kind of reminded me back 10 years ago when I used to do testing of they install on Linux, they install in a directory based on port number. So I would have my own agent. My phone number was 4469, so I would install into 4469, and I would use the port 4469. So where do we get that information is a great question. So if I have one run on 3181 and I have another patrol in a different directory that's running on 4469, and I go say I want to deploy to 4469, two things. One, that message says I'm going to update all the agents, which not necessarily is true on Linux. If I have them installed in different directories, I'm really not installing on each of those agents, and I wouldn't even have to start and stop those agents. So do we handle agents on Linux, Unix,
yes,
being installed in different directories on different ports?
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
So do we are we smart enough from an install point of view to know that I don't have any other agents in my directory structure, so I don't have to stop the other agents?
Yes.
Like for a KM install, for a patrol install, you'd have to, because you're going to upgrade the /etc rc3.d.
Yeah. Basically, the via KM deployment, this thing handled by the common installer, so that is smart enough.
Okay, so it does handle both in the same directory and in separate directories.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Moving ahead. Now we can customize the cleanup properties in the petrol agent side and the true site server. So to persist the install log at the petrol agent side, we can set this variable to true. If I set this variable to true, all the logs will be persisted by the petrol agent side. To clean up the deployable files at true site server, packages that are deployed successfully are cleaned up automatically after successful deployment. But for the failed deployments, a cleanup activity is performed periodically. The default cleanup activity is taken in 7 days. To change this property, perform the following steps. Access the TSPS server, open the command prompt, and we have a property, TSSS property, set deployment files cleanup interval, and set the number of days accordingly. And to save and upload the updated settings, run the following command. TSSS properties reload.
So is there a schedule on when it goes to do that cleanup? Because or is it as soon as I run the reload that it says, oh, these are older than 7 days, I need to go clean them up now? Is there like a scheduled time that it actually goes and does the cleanup?
Brian, basically it's TSPS start time, we count till 7 days.
Right. But I mean, so I let's say that it's currently set at 7, correct? That's the default. So 7's the default. So I go in there. I've had 7 days worth of deployments. I've done all 7 days. I go in there and I say, now I want you to, because I'm running out of disk space or I'm low, I want you to be 3 days, and then I do a properties reload. Is there a scheduled time where I go and I say, let me look at these files and see if it's time for me to clean up files? So before we have, like if you look at, mark for delete, we have a scan interval when we actually go and look, and then how long is the interval that I keep these things? So is there a scan interval that says once an hour I go to check to see if I need to clean these up, or once a day, once a week,
No, basically there is no some variable, but basically we can directly clear the CMA repository where the packages are older. We can share the locations, if such situation arrives.
No. My point is how often do I look to check the age of those files? So for mark for delete, for an example, I check every hour and I say, hey, I want to do a scan for mark for delete, and then once I scan that, I'm scanning against, what is my retention time? So my retention time is 3 days, but I scan every hour to see if anything is older than 3 days, and then I do the cleanup. So what is the interval where we look to see if so I get the cleanup interval is anything older than 7 days will get deleted, but how often do I look? And so if I decide I'm going to go set this variable to 3 days, how long do I have to wait until it actually does that automated cleanup?
Basically, the mechanism that we have implemented, it's like a callback mechanism. So if we schedule for 7 days, it will check only after 7 days. If you change the time in between to the 3 days, then it will check from that moment after 3 days. It will not
So that doesn't make sense. So it doesn't make sense to me. I'm a little confused. Anyway, I guess we can talk about it later. But to me, there's an interval that says if I deploy, it just it doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm making too much out.
No, Brian. Let's ask the question differently.
Thank you.
How does the cleanup work? What triggers it?
Okay, so the thing is,
what time of the day, and how often does it trigger?
Okay, so basically the trigger will be done only on 7 days, every 7th day, and at that day it will check if the deployment packets are 7 days older, means whatever, and it will clean data.
Okay, but what job?
So I can have files. Yeah, so I can have files that are 13 days old. 14 days old.
It should not be, because prior.
If I only check if I check every 7 days, then it's a possibility that I have 13 days worth of files. That's why it doesn't make sense that my age is. That's what I was trying to get to. And then the other point is, how's it triggered? When's it triggered? So, is it at 3 o'clock in the morning? Is it at So I'll be honest. It doesn't make sense to me that we should have a scan interval that says I'm going to look for files that are older than 7 days, and to our point, it's a schedule. I either do it, every Monday. Well, it should be at least every day, or is it every hour, or how does that work for cleanup? Because then, if you start thinking about 14 days worth of files in that box, that could be pretty big. The other thing that we probably need to put into our upgrade scenarios is this directory could be pretty good size. We need to have a cleanup mechanism that we would do before we would do an upgrade, so I'm not backing up all of that information.
Brian, basically, if the deployment goes through successfully, the packages will be cleaned up for that deployment. It only in case of the failed deployment. And the reason behind implementation of this for the 7 days is because the customer will not be doing the expectation was deployment in around the year, and keeping a poller for closer interval, it will add on the process on the TSPS. So we thought to put it on a exact interval, but I think we can discuss it if you want to reschedule that things.
Yeah, I just think that we need to have a scan interval to where we actually keep 7 days worth of, or whatever the default that we're going to do. So if I deploy to 100 machines and one of them fails and I keep that package, is that what we're saying? So I keep one package.
That's a good point. We can consider.
Yeah, we can consider that point. But
no, not consider. I'm asking a question. So
I agree. In that case, it will keep.
So what happens? So it fails on one. I keep one package, correct? Not that I'm keeping.
Not like that. Basically, once the deployment concludes, okay, when suppose we have deployed 100 agents in a single package, okay, and one of them fails because of unrecoverable reason. If it is disconnected or something, in that case, we will keep the package for a couple of retries. But when the retries are closed, means for the deployment, the package will be cleaned up. We'll not keep a package because we already have a template for that. We can create a package again. The package will not be kept once the job is completed for KM push.
Packages that are deployed successfully clean up automatically after the deployment is done. For a failed job, a cleanup activity is performed every 7 days. I got really confused on it. So are we saying that we're not going to store these packages? I'm confused. What was?
I think we can.
I think they're mixing the stored package.
Confused.
I think you're talking about is on the ISN. You're storing a package on the ISN. Brian is asking about the package which failed on the patrol agent.
Right.
So we're talking about two separate components.
Okay.
So
I'm hearing exactly. I'm hearing that we're doing the cleanup on the TSPS. We're saving the package on then we're saving packages on failed. That's what I'm trying to figure out. There's a lot of information here. I apologize. There's just a lot of information.
Okay, fine. So for TSPS, the package will be clean. If we consider about the petrol agent, and if on one of petrol agent the deployment is failed, to keep the details, the flag need to be set that mentioned above. Delete package details. If that is false, even the deployment is failed, we will clean up it.
Okay.
Okay. And the second thing for 7, I think we can discuss that is it correct or after their discussions for the meeting.
So the default setting for persist install logs flag needs to be set to low. So for it to keep logs, it needs to be set to no.
Yep.
And what is the default setting?
No, I think.
So it saves the install. The install files stay there, correct? By default.
Install log files.
Yes, they stay there, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, fine.
The next would be the debugging step. So if a customer is facing issues and for getting the what exactly issue is, we might need the debug logs. For that, we have to change the info level to debug. So it can be done through TSSS logger debug followed by the logger name. So we have to enable logs for deploy KM, KM push and CMA. If at all the TSS logger is getting some into problematic situation, we can use change in the logback.xml from info to debug. These all logs can be changed. This after the logs change from info to debug, the debug logs will be generated in this CMA KM push log and CMA log, and the log file location would be true site install directory, true site p server logs. So next one will be troubleshooting.
And that was for what? So to troubleshoot the whole thing, you'd need to set those 3?
The troubleshooting steps would be the issues we faced during the development process.
Right, but if you go back to where you were, I think he's asking that we need to turn on all 3 of those for the logging, correct?
Yes.
So what about ISN and agent side? Because, I mean, this could fail in multiple places. It could fail getting to ISN. Is there some ISN logs that I need to be aware of, or any debug that I need to turn on in an ISN during deployment to find anything?
A normal ISN debug will be fine.
Okay, that's great. We ought to note that there.
Any thought of like having just a one logger that would turn all three, so you didn't have to know you had to turn all three of them on?
Basically, these are the three deployment modules. We can think of it. We will take a note of it.
Yeah, I mean, because if you need all three of those to debug this, then it would be nice just to have one setting that you turn on debug, and it would turn everything. It would know, hey, I need all three of these, and turn them on.
I agree. So like you have the CMA, which I think just turns on one thing, but if I had one that said deployment, and it knew the dependencies to what you're like exactly what you're saying, is I just turn on one thing that's kind of user friendly and easier instead of com.bmc.bpm. It should be just something like deployment, and then it turns on any logging that I need. So I think that would be easier for the future.
Yeah.
This feature.
And then add to this information that ISN logs are sufficient without turning on debug, I think would be good. And another thing from just a troubleshooting point of view, there's a lot here in how things go and what the flow is and who asks what questions. So I say deploy, and then it gets to the agent then communicates back to the TSPS and says, hey, give me that package. And there's a whole bunch of steps that happen there. It'd be great if there was a flow chart of the steps that happen and who talks to who. That would really help out from a troubleshooting point of view, especially when we get into environments where customers have firewalls and other things. So if we could have kind of a, here's what happens. I get the request from the user to deploy package to agent. What are the steps that happen after that point? Even saying, at this point, installer, it's pulled down, the common installer is launched, patrol agent is stopped. I mean, I know that's a lot to ask for. I mean, it's a lot of work, but getting support and CE and services and, everybody getting their head around exactly how that works really helps out when we're in front of the customer.
Yeah, sure. We can work on it.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, one point to mention here, after the loggers were on and all the debug logs have been taken, we should turn the debug off, so we don't want the customer flooded with the debug logs. The next would be troubleshooting step, which we have encountered during the development process. The first case would be if you encounter while upgrading the patrol agent fails because the patrol agent directory is not found, and the upgrade process fails saying patrol agent installation directory not found, and the logs we get of this format. The recommended solution would be reinitialize the patrol agent and trigger the deployment once again.
Just some feedback. It would be helpful if you told us what the directory was that couldn't be found.
I can't tell you because it doesn't know what it is. Because it's looking for patrol home. It's looking for patrol home, and it can't find it.
Is it looking for an environment variable? Is that what it's doing, or is it looking to where to define based on the package?
Basically, when we deploy, before going to deployment patrol agent, we check for the permissions that agent have on the home directory and the size it requires. If the path is not available with the CMA, in that case, the exception will arise. It's specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's specifically.
So that leads to that. But that leads to two things that it could possibly be. One, Brian mentioned that an environment variable is not defined, patrol home. That would be nice to know that that wasn't defined. If it is defined, then I would like to know what the directory resolves to in the log messages.
Yeah, it will be. If the patrol home is defined, in that case, you will get the correct directory here.
Right, but if it's not defined, he's saying patrol home doesn't exist or the environment variable doesn't exist. Just more information of what doesn't exist.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Mostly the agent installation directory we refers to the patrol home, not other not other directory.
I thought earlier it was said that it's BMC base is what we're looking for.
This is the convention of
So, Praveen, Brian, so the thing is, this scenario would occur only when your patrol agent is already running, but your TSIM component was not running, okay? So what happens is your connectivity between the patrol agent and integration service is there. This is a scenario when you're connecting to your remote IS, okay? And the data has not been synced into TSPS. What happens is after this, the TSPS connects to TSIM, but at this time, the agent is not sending the data. Okay, so in this terms, I could say the AGS message is not sent to, it does not reach to TSPS. At that time, it comes up and tells you that the petrol home is not there. So the only solution is we have to restart the petrol agent, wherein it reconnects and sends initialization messages to TSIM, and there it gets updated into TSPS. And that is how we get all the details about the petrol home and the other things.
Okay, so in that situation, was the agent really in a bad state where he was not sending data in? So he was in a bad state. Is that what you're kind of getting at? Is it like
Yes.
lost connection?
Yes,
Okay.
that could be one scenario. Yeah.
Okay. And Morgan, did you have something else?
Well, I just we're talking about Patrol Home.
And
but
before we're talking about
I
base.
thought we talked about BMC Base was the thing we were looking for. Even though I know that had to do with agent upgrade, the KMs still would reside there too. So I would think BMC Base is still the most important variable or environment variable we're looking for.
So if you have Patrol Home, you have BMC Base, because you know Patrol Home is one directory. BMC Base is one directory above Patrol Home. We always know Patrol Home is going to be defined. So we actually should be using Patrol Home because the agent's up and running and should know what Patrol Home is. And then knowing that, we can do a relative path to go up one to create BMC Base.
I'm okay with that as long as that's.
You're right. We're using two different terms. One place we were saying that BMC Base is what we're using, and so now we're saying Patrol Home. So I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay.
But again, just go back to my point. Regardless of the fact that the solution says to reinitialize the patrol agent, if that doesn't resolve the problem, not having the additional information in there about what generated the exception, what information did you use to identify that you have an exception would be helpful in the logging. So if it's an environment variable, if it's a directory that you're looking for, that information should be put into the logging. Because we're assuming that reinitializing the agent is going to fix the problem. I hope so. Great, if it does. But if it doesn't, then I need additional information to figure out what the problem might be.
Yeah, so we do have this information in the log file. So what happens is the complete statement says it has got a blank variable or the value for the variable petrol home. Okay, and that is how we analyze. Okay, so the initialization message could not be reached from Petrogen to TSPS, and that's the reason the path was not found Petrol Home.
Okay, so you're saying that's going to be a different log. That's going to be a different log statement in the file.
Yeah, it is into the CMA KM push log. We do have that statement. So.
Okay. Good enough.
Yep.
Now, if the agent's not in a healthy state, so if runtime, I'm trying to think of the right pconfig term, but if it's not at 1, then let's say the agent's been throttled. What's going to happen in this situation for deployment? Is that just going to outright fail?
So this is a scenario wherein we consider that the petrol is not in a healthy state. So if it's not in a healthy state, there are two conditions. One is, even if in that condition, is it able to connect to IS and to the TSPS it is visible? So in that case, it will go ahead with the installation. The second state would be it is not connected. So at that state, we would always say, like, yes, the deployment would not be triggered on that petrol agent. So when we say it's not in a healthy state, there could be multiple reasons, multiple scenarios. Either the pconfig is corrupted, or it's in a hung state wherein it's not able to resume the job. So at that moment, when it's not able to go ahead with the installation and the packages will be deployed and the installation would go ahead, okay. But when it tries to come up, it will fail. And when it fails, because it will not be able to send the final ACK message that the installation is completed. So we consider this as a failed scenario, and we roll it back to the same working state. And in that case, the customer would have to go back and do some manual steps like clearing the pconfig DB or fixing that part if there's a corrupted history or those kind of scenarios.
Okay, so corrupted history itself, that could be a major impact to the deployment. I mean, it makes sense because the agent may not be behaving, healthy. And another question in terms of when this is going on, we have the situation still with patrol components that multiple are installed on the same box, and with common install, are we always setting don't override security if it already exists? So, let's say I install the patrol console in here first, and I've got my agent, but I'm now going to upgrade. Are we just saying don't override security? Okay.
Yes, we do say that. So the standard is like the security levels and the security configurations are retained, and they are not overridden while you do an petrol agent upgrade. Okay. So that is a part of that, wherein we also restore your default accounts and everything, so the path and everything. So this is, falls under that category, and we don't update that path and also the security configuration. So we have done this kind of testing wherein we have the security levels at different security levels, and we tried creating a package with a different security level. But after the upgrade and everything, the security level what was there earlier is retained and not the one that is in the package.
Do we tell the customer in some way that that part wasn't changed?
Yeah, while you deploy a package or you select the package to be deployed, there's an asterisk on the view on the package selection page, and over there we have added a note, and we have made sure that this information is added into the documentation at multiple locations by giving the note, and it's been highlighted at most of the places.
Okay, cool.
So the next case would be deploying packages to patrol agents running on IBM AX fails. So it fails with the message saying patrol agent cannot bind to RT server. So in this case, the recommended solution would be, before deploying the package, stop the NMMP daemon by running the following command, then deploy the package, and then start the SNMP daemon by run the following command. The help link is associated.
So you're suggesting to run the stop src-s snmpd. Is that something that I can issue through the agent query window from the TSPS server, the console?
Rahul?
So the basic prime condition for executing any command from the AQT is like the connection should be established, okay? And if that is there, then we can execute the commands. But it's always recommended if you are executing any command that would start, stop, or do some modifications to the petrol agent, it's always recommended to do it through the system.
Does this error always occur when you try to deploy to AIX, or just sometimes?
No, this is very rarely. This is not.
Okay, so just sometimes it can happen, and this is a workaround for it. Okay.
So next would be deploy and install and failure status. So failure state reason is shown on the UI on the petrol agent's summary page, or if you want to dig into more details, you can see the logs, true site CMA KM push logs. Manually check the petrol agent related to package issue if all the packages are landed on the petrol agent. And if you see on the KM push logs or any other logs, if any other exception is prefixed with the IS_KM_push along with the IS ID, so the problem is with the IS. So if the exception is prefixed with the PA_KM_KM push along with the PA ID, so the problem would be from the PA side. The format of the exception would be like this. And for the CMA, we can look for accept IS_KM push and PA_KM push. So in this way, the logs can be tracked on which side exactly the problem is. Now, this another scenario whereas the uninstall failed due to unable to uninstall the following products due to field dependency. This usually occurs when you are trying to uninstall one of the subcomponents of any KM, and due to dependencies, it failed. So you have to go ahead and check manually the uninstall. The next troubleshooting step would be, you might encounter this scenario where in the petrol agent's detail page you see exception like unable to send monitoring solution details to petrol agent. This is a scenario where two concurrent users tried to uninstall the solutions from the same petrol agent, and one user triggered it and it was successful, and the other user is still in the process of uninstalling it. So he gets a message like this. This is a harmless message. So however, the uninstall of the module is successful and the KM is already being uninstalled. The next troubleshooting step would be deploy failed due to reason checksum missing or checksum mismatch. This usually happens when the chunks are being transformed from IS to PA and there is a checksum check between the pack to see the chunk's genuinity. So if at all it failed like in this scenario and the logs has this format of exceptions, the recommended solution would be reinitialize the deploy and install process to get a new copy of package for deployment.
All right, so let's go over this one a little bit, the checksum mismatch. I had a problem in 10.5 with a customer that had a checksum mismatch, and it seems the checksum is stored inside the database. So the package seems fine, and for some mysterious reason, it got resolved when the chunk hostname was changed to the proper hostname. How is there any? Is the checksum just the checksum of the file itself, or is there anything else that's involved in the mismatch?
Checksum of the chunks that has been created from the package.
Is there a way to
when we say
reinitialize what's ever stored in the database?
No. So at every, sorry to interrupt you. So at every reinitialize, whenever we trigger the job, so the packages is the package are created with chunks, and this checksum value is updated every time. So we don't refer to the older checksum values because that could be a scenario wherein I have the package with the same name, but I have edited the package and done some modifications. So definitely the checksum would change when the chunks are created.
Okay. Then I guess perhaps then if there's a job that's stuck or a job that didn't complete that's in the database, is that possible?
No, that is not possible because we have timeout of 75 minutes. So there's a retry and there's also a timeout. So there is not a case wherein your job would keep running infinitely. So it would get terminated at a particular time and it will show as failed.
And it'll clean up the entry in the database table?
Yeah, it should. Yeah, it cleans up the into the database. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving to the next slide. The known limitations would be if you are upgrading the patrol agent with the predefined package, make sure you first update the package and add the required details which is providing while importing the out-of-the-box packages. Then save it. Then you can go ahead and deploy and install.
So this we require because there's a limitation that you cannot deploy the out-of-the-box packages directly. So once the moment you edit it, it no more remains the out-of-the-box and it becomes a normal package. And then you can go ahead and deploy it.
The next would be the task support should complete. Enclosed log files of the patrol agent for install patrol home /temp/install log, and for uninstall log patrol home /temp uninstall log. For the true site p server enclosed logs is located at location true site p server home ts logs, and follow the troubleshooting and the debugging step mentioned, and output of the following command to get all the pconfigs variables of the patrol agent. So any further questions?
Just one point to add on what Pratik said. Whenever you're getting the pconfig, it's always better to get it with plus defaults option.
Any more questions around?
So while doing the deployment of the patrol agent using this new feature, we have to disconnect the agent from the wp-config, pcentral, and developer console. So is there any restriction for the KM push?
No. So there is no restriction as such because the thing is there are common libraries, okay, some DLLs on Windows. This is particularly from Windows perspective, okay, and but these are in use. For example, msvcr100.dll, okay, this is in use when you're using Patrol Agent or you're using the Patrol console on the same machine. Okay. So when you're trying to upgrade Patrol Agent, it will fail and it will say unlink to or to delete. It was not able to delete that file. So not able to unlink or delete, and this happens when you're doing an upgrade and it tries to replace these files.
Okay, but this will be in case of patrol agent deployment, not in the case of KM deployment.
So in the KM deployment, I would say particularly if you're trying to do the Windows KM, okay, OS KM, it would fail because there are some of the options. If agent is already monitoring Windows KM, it will have the patrol perf being in use and that will be locked. Okay, so this scenario would also rise over there.
So we have to disconnect whichever KM, for the Windows KM particularly. If you want to push the new version of the KM, Then we have to disconnect the agent from the
No,
petrol
no,
circuit
no,
card.
no. We don't have to disconnect the petrol agent. So the thing is, from in Nephrite 10.7, what we have done is, in case you are having multiple instances running, okay, and they are monitoring any KMs, so it's not a problem because it's been taken care, and all the running petrol agents, only petrol agent processes are stopped. But the thing is, if it is already connected to a developer console or to a PCM or any other component is running, which may be, which may have locked any of the DLLs, then it will create a problem. So taken care of only the petrol agent or the multiple instances of petrol agent running on the same box. But we cannot know how many other processes of the petrol products or any other petrol products are running. That's the reason we recommend, like, we should stop all the other petrol components and products before we proceed with the upgrade.
Okay.
Now, before we end, let's go back to the TSPS server where we have triggered the deploy and install and check the statuses. Now on this agent, we have triggered the agent upgrade from 10.0 to 10.7. So it was successfully upgraded. We can see in the summary page as well. So the job was successful.
So that's all. We are good with. We are done with the contents that we wanted to show. Is there any further questions? Thanks for joining the presentations.